Welcome to Linux Int. We at Linux Int have developed a course for the network attached storage devices of Synology. Throughout this course, we will be working with two of the Synology devices to teach you how to become a Synology Pro. In this course, we have taken the steps from the very beginner, starting from the hardware walkthrough to the connectivity of storage devices up to the disk configuration of the Synology devices, and we will cover everything that you need to know to become a Synology Pro. Welcome to the first lecture of this course. Throughout this course, there are going to be some theoretical videos which are going to give you a lot of information about Synology and all of the concepts on which the Synology NAS device works. Yes, you heard me right that I said Synology NAS or a NAS device. Synology is actually a storage device which falls under the category of NAS or network access devices. So, to better understand the working of Synology, we must understand the working of a NAS device and what even is a NAS device. So, we are going to start off this course with what is a NAS device. At first, NAS stands for Network Access Storage Device. It is simply a device that is connected to and is accessed through a network instead of connecting directly to your computer machine. Now there are multiple benefits of doing so. I mean, you could have just easily attached multiple storage devices to your computer machine, but if you're opting out for a network access storage device, then there must be optimal reasons to do that. And yes, there are multiple benefits and reasons to do that, and we're going to go over all of them in this video. First of all, if you were to talk about NAS, then NAS devices contain a processor. Normal hard disk drives or solid state drives do not have a processor, whereas NAS devices contain processors. Not only that, they even contain an operating system. And the purpose for containing an operating system is that it can run applications and provide the intelligence needed for the files to be easily shared with authorized people. And to add to the sharing process, the operating system and the processor are required so that you can do intelligent sorting of the files, performing complex storage mechanism on the files, and applying techniques like RAID configuration so that the fetching and the performance of your whole system or the server is quite fast, and it even retains a backup in case of hard disk drive failure. Again, why should we even consider buying a NAS when you can simply buy hard disk drive and simply connect it to your computer machine? That is going to be explained in this section, which is NAS versus DAS. So as I mentioned before, that NAS stands for Network Access Storage Devices, whereas DAS stands for Directly Access Storage Devices. So basically, imagine this scenario that you're working on your computer machine and you run out of storage. So what do? You go out and buy more storage and connect it to your computer machine. Yes, that would be the right approach. But now imagine this, that you're working in an organization and you have a central server. Now that server is containing the data of all of the employees, all of their personal information, all of the work that they're doing, and even the backup of all the previous data. Now if you run out of storage in that particular data, then you cannot simply just throw out the hard drive and implement a new one and still expect to maintain everything as perfectly as it was before. So in those scenarios, you need a proper dedicated server that is going to maintain all of your storage devices, that is going to maintain all of your data. Now the data in question is not only the records of the employees, rather it is also the data that is being communicated in between the employees, or if they want to simply save a file that is important for their work, they can do that on the company's server. So in this situation, NAS devices excel DAS devices in a level that far exceeds the imagination capabilities. So the question now is, who should even use NAS? Well, as I mentioned in the previous scenarios, that NAS systems are perfect for small to medium scale businesses, and there are multiple reasons for that. First of all, they are simple to operate, as a dedicated IT professional is often not required to run a NAS server. They are much cheaper as compared to other network storage solutions. Third, it is very easy to maintain a data backup, as with the NAS you get a processor and operating system and different type of RAID configuration through which you can maintain a data backup even if you lose one of your hard disk drives or solid state drives. Another thing is that it is good at centralizing the data storage in a safe, reliable way. Now, since we have talked about the NAS, we should also talk about the components of NAS. Now, to support the variety of ways people want to use the network access storage devices, NAS devices have several components integrated into their architecture. Now these components come as a package, as a single device. Now these components are, first of all, storage devices, which are going to be your hard disk drive, your solid state drives, and so much more. And then you have networking capabilities, having the ability to connect to a network, and you can then connect to your NAS device using the same network. And then having a dedicated CPU, and then at last we have operating systems. First of all, storage. Why do we even need storage? Basically, with hard disk drive, the primary function of a NAS device is to store your files. The most popular NAS devices for home, office, small business or enterprise workgroup contains 2 to 5 hard disk drives or solid state drives. While multiple hard drives clearly provide more capacity than a single hard drive, they can also provide redundancy and faster file access to the stored files. Now when it comes to networking is the major component of the NAS because this is how the NAS devices is connected to your computer. The network attachment can be via Ethernet cable or by Wi-Fi. While many NAS devices contain USB ports, but these ports are not used to connect to the NAS devices to your computer. Rather, these ports are used to connect additional devices to your NAS, which can then be accessed through your NAS by your computer. And then we have a processor or a dedicated CPU. Now again, this is just to make sure that your server is intelligent enough so that it can manage your files in different ways, it can maintain backup, and it can provide capabilities of RAID configurations for faster access, data storage, data security, and even retaining your data if your hardware fails. And at last, we have the operating system. While it may not seem like a big deal to the average user that there is an operating system that manages the storage device, NAS devices have to have an operating system on them to take care of the tasks that would otherwise be managed by the computer of the NAS devices. Basically, you're not using the processing power of your computer, rather than you're letting the NAS device or the NAS server take care of its own computations by using its own processing power. So that was a brief introduction of NAS devices. Again, throughout this course, you will be met with these types of theoretical videos. Now, the purpose of including these types of theoretical videos in this course is very simply to make sure that you have adequate knowledge when talking about NAS and Synology devices. So see you in the next lecture. In the previous video, we have talked about what is a NAS device, how it is different from typical DAS devices, and what are the different components of a NAS device. In this video, we are going to talk about what is Synology and why are we opting out for Synology NAS devices when there are other trivial NAS devices available on the market. Well, to start off, we must know that Synology NAS devices go beyond the trivial NAS devices. Basically, we know that a NAS is a network attached storage device that is connected through or connected to a network. A Synology NAS goes beyond that. It enables you to create a private cloud to store, access, backup, and share all your files freely and much more securely than the trivial NAS devices. So that is why throughout this course we are opting out for a Synology NAS device. Now if we simply add on to that information, in Synology NAS we have something known as the SHR. Basically, all of the NAS devices which are hosting out different hard disk drives or solid state drives or basically storage devices, they are using the capabilities of the RAID configuration. Now there are multiple type of RAID configurations starting from RAID 0 to up to RAID 10. Specific to Synology NAS devices, we have a very specific RAID configuration that is known as the SHR. Now SHR stands for Synology Hybrid RAID. Now this is the Synology's automated RAID management system. Now SHR allows users to create a flexible storage solution with optimized capacity and performance. Whereas if you were to go with a trivial RAID configuration, then you would either get the optimized capacity or the optimized performance or the maximum performance, but SHR provides them both. So SHR can be considered as a sleek balance between. And to add more information to SHR, the Synology Hybrid RAID is based on a Linux RAID management system. Now it was designed to make the storage deployment quicker, easier than the classic RAID systems. So even though RAID configurations by default were made to be faster and easier, but this SHR is designed to beat that as well. Now another thing that you get with Synology NAS devices is the Synology Knowledge Center. So Synology Knowledge Center provides you with answers to frequently asked questions, troubleshooting steps, software tutorials, and all the technical information that you will require. So what is Synology NAS? Basically, it is a company that creates NAS devices that are far more superior than the other trivial NAS available on the market today. And other than the NAS devices, they also create disk station management and disk station managers. So that is why we are going to be using Synology NAS devices throughout this course. So in this video, we are going to go over the hardware that we are going to be using throughout this course. Now to my left is the Synology 4-bay NAS, which is the DS420 Plus, and to my right is the 8-bay Synology, which is 1821. So right off the bat, we are going to go over the unboxing of Synology 420 Plus. So we have this box that contains the adapter and the user manual, but we are going to just ignore that and go over the device. So in the package, we have this tray which contains the additional devices that I have ordered with this Synology NAS, which contains the hard disk drives and the SSDs. And then in the box we have the NAS device itself, the Synology 420 Plus, and other than that we have two 400GB SSDs and a 16GB RAM. Now this RAM is expandable with both of these models, which is the 420 Plus and the 1821. So in the box we get the adapter to power on our Synology NAS, and then we have two RJ45 connectors which are going to be used to connect our Synology NAS with the router. Other than that, we have these screws. Now these screws are used to simply hold down the SSDs with our hard disk drive trays, and then we have these keys for the hard disk drive trays. And then I have these hard disk drives that I'm going to use with these NAS, and then I have this adapter cable that is going to connect to the charger to my NAS. So coming on to the hard disk drives, so these are all of the things that we are going to be using throughout this course. So we have two hard disk drive, two SSDs and a 116GB RAM. So first, on the front of the Synology NAS, we have this hard disk trays. To insert a hard drive, simply pull on any one of these trays, take it out, and then what you're going to do is that you're going to pull these straps from the sides. Take your hard drive and then you're going to place it right over here. Press it down, and then you're going to connect these straps once more. Now once the hard disk drive is in place, simply insert the hard disk tray like this and just press it a little so that we get a click. Now once that is done, what you can do is that you can simply take the key and lock this hard drive in place, so now it cannot be removed even if you want to. Other than that, on this Synology NAS, on the front we have this USB 3.0 connector, we have this power button and this status LEDs. Now on the back of this Synology NAS, we have these two RJ45 connectors along with another USB 3.0 and the charging port for the DC voltage. And if you want to insert the SSD within this NAS, then what you have to do is that you need to flip this NAS over. Then you would see these two little trays. So take it out, take your SSD, and then you're going to simply plug that SSD right over here. And once you have plugged it into the socket, simply press down on it so we get this little click. After that, reinstall the tray and your SSD has been inserted into the Synology NAS. Next up, let's power up this NAS. So simply flip this NAS, take your adapter and then take your connector cable for the adapter. Now plug in the adapter cable to the adapter, and then what you're going to do is that you're going to plug in this DC cable into your Synology NAS. Once that is done, plug the adapter into a socket. Now to power on the Synology NAS, simply click on this power button on the front of it. And then what you want to do is that you want to connect this NAS with the router. So for that, simply connect the RJ45 in this port. And then connect this other end of the RJ45 wire to the router, switch or a hub. Now on the front, you can also see that the status LED is blinking and the disk 1 LED is also blinking because we have inserted only one hard disk drive in this NAS. So now let's talk about the Synology DS1821 and the unboxing of that Synology NAS. Now let's unbox this Synology DS1821. So now at the top of the box we have this little package. After that we have the device itself, and we even get a user manual for this NAS. So let's open up this Synology NAS. So now if you want to attach the RAM inside this Synology NAS, and you would see this tray on the back. So take a screwdriver and unscrew these two screws. And then simply take out the tray. Here you can see that one of the RAM is already connected. So now take your extra RAM and carefully plug it inside this slot. Once that is done, you're going to simply gently press on it so that we hear a click. Once that is done, you have successfully added RAM to your Synology NAS. Now what you're going to do is that you're going to simply take this tray, place it back in, and then you're going to take the screwdriver and screw these two screws. Now, inserting a hard disk within this NAS is the same as the previous one. You simply take out the tray, you remove the side straps, you place in the hard drive facing downwards, press on it, and then insert the side straps. Once that is done, you simply take the tray, place it back in its place, and press on it till we hear a click. And there you go, your Synology 8-bay NAS is ready for use. So all there is left to do is to simply plug in the power input and then connect this Synology with the router using the RJ45 cables. Before ending this video, I would like to add a little bit of information that throughout this course I will not be using both of these devices. I will be using only one. And the reason for that is both of these NAS devices, actually all of the NAS devices by Synology have the same software configuration. So knowing one of them is going to mean that you know all of them. So take your NAS device, follow along with the course and learn how to become a Synology NAS Pro. So in this video, we are going to go over the initial configuration of your Synology NAS. So I'm assuming that by now that you have connected your Synology NAS with the router and your laptop or your PC is connected to the same router, may it be through Wi-Fi or LAN cables. Get on your computer machine and come over to this website, which is finds.synology.com. This is basically a web assistant by Synology and it locates the Synology device on your network. And the only requirement for this assistant is that you must be connected to the same network through which the Synology device is connected. So head on over to this website. So at first it is going to say something like searching for devices, and after a while it is going to find your Synology device. As you already know through the hardware walkthrough video that we had two different Synology devices. One was the DS420 Plus model and this one is DS1821 Plus model. So basically what I did was I moved the hard disk drives into this 8-bay Synology NAS and I've also inserted the additional 16GB of RAM within this NAS. So once this assistant finds your Synology device, you need to click on connect. After you do that, you would be brought to this page, so click on accept the agreement and then click on next. And then same goes for the Synology privacy statement, so click on continue. Now this is going to take you over to that particular IP address of your Synology device and that is going to open up the web index HTML file from within your Synology. Basically this is the setup wizard of your device. So it shows you your Synology device right over here, and to start the setup simply click on this button that says setup. Currently my Synology device and the hard drives that are connected to it does not have any operating system. So what I want to do is that I want to install the Disk Station Manager, which is the operating system of Synology NAS, into my actual Synology NAS 1821 Plus. So simply click on install now to go with the default settings. But if you want to go with the custom installation, then you can click on manual install right over here. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to go with install now, which is basically the default settings. And then simply click on I understand that all the data on these hard drives will be removed. So since I have only connected two hard drives, so it's going to remove out the data from these two hard drives and install the operating system on these hard drives. So once you're satisfied or once you have verified this, simply click on OK to start the installation process of your operating system. And then you just need to wait for the complete process to finish. Now once the installation process is done, you will see something like this on your screen that it is going to take this much time and then restart your Synology NAS. So basically you're also going to hear a beep from the Synology device itself. So the installation process is now done and all you have to do is wait for the restart. So after the restart you will be brought to this page. So basically this is the welcome to DSM or the Disk Station Manager screen. So let's just get started by clicking the start button. So now this is going to ask you to create an administrator account which you will be using to connect to our Synology device. First of all, let's give a name to our device. And then provide a password. After that, What I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on this checkbox that is going to allow this Synology NAS to be displayed in the web assistant. Now this is really crucial. Sometimes we even forget this IP address of the Synology NAS, or if we are not working with a static IP address, this IP address can change, which will cause us to forget or misplace our Synology NAS. So that is why I'm going to click on this box that every time I need to find my Synology on the same network, I can simply just go to find.synology.com. Other than that, there is another option in this configuration, which is the QuickConnect. Well, for now we're going to skip that and we'll talk about QuickConnect later on in this course. Anyways, simply click on next. After that, it is going to ask you about the update configuration of your Synology NAS. So if you want to download and automatically install the DSM packages and updates, then you can go with the first option. And if you want to automatically install the DSM and updates, go with the second option. And if you want to be notified when the update is available, then you can go with the third option. I'm just going to go with the recommended one, which is to automatically install important DSM and packages update only. Click that one and then click on next. After that, it is going to ask you to create a Synology account. Now we can do that later on as well, so for now I'm going to go with skip, but creating a Synology account is going to give us access to the direct connect to our Synology NAS. So for now I'm just going to go with skip. And then it's like device analytics. If I want to share my user experience with the Synology, I'll just go with I agree and then click on submit. Then it's going to take a few moments, but after that you would be inside your Synology NAS's operating system. Let's end this video right over here, and from the next video we are going to be working with storage pools and volumes, and then we'll go more in detail about this Synology NAS or the DSM operating system. So we're going to start where we left off in the last video. So we have installed the DSM operating system on our Synology and we can access our Synology using the web assistant. So after doing all of that, we are brought to this page which says that you need to create a pool and volume. Well, the very first thing that the Synology is going to ask is to create a storage pool, so that is the main purpose of Synology NAS. So let's get started with the storage pool creation, and after that we are going to go over the first look of this operating system. Anyways, let's simply click on create now. So this is going to open up this storage creation wizard. So click on start and then you're going to choose the type of RAID. Well, for this video just go along with what I am saying. But after this video, we'll go with another theoretical video that would explain to you what is a RAID configuration and what are the different types of RAID. But to put it simply within this tutorial, you have different types of RAIDs. We have SHR, RAID 0, Basic, JBOD and RAID 1. If we were to only talk about RAIDs, then we have RAID 1, then we have RAID 0 up to RAID number 10. And then we have done other RAID configurations such as Basic, JBOD, but this SHR is not found anywhere else. That is because this SHR, as I've previously explained in the theoretical video, is specific for Synology RAIDs. So it even stands for Synology Hybrid RAIDs. So I'm just going to go with a Synology Hybrid RAID, and then you can even provide the description for your storage pool, but it is not mandatory, so I'm just going to leave it as blank. Now, over here you get some kind of information. So it says that if you want to go with the SHR, then you need to have a minimum of 1 drive, and if you want to have a drive fault tolerance, then in that case you need to have at least 2 drives. If I change this to RAID 1, it says that for the RAID 1 to work you must have at least 2 hard drives. Well, on our machine we have 2 hard drives, but we are not just going to go with RAID 1 for now. We can even go with a basic one. It says that you don't get any drive fault tolerance, you just have a minimum of 1 drive. And then JBOD is almost the same, and then RAID 0 does not have a drive fault tolerance, but it is made for a maximum performance with the minimum of 2 hard drives. So for now let's just go with SHR and then click on next. After that you need to select the drives that you want to put into this particular storage pool. So basically you can have multiple drives and you can create multiple storage pools within the same Synology NAS device. So I'm just going to go with all of them for now and then click on next. And then it is going to ask you whether you want to perform a drive check or you want to skip drive check. Well, I am working with new hard drive, so I don't have to go to check for bad sectors and stuff like that. So I'm just going to skip the drive check and click on next. After that, it is showing me the total capacity that is available. So I'm just going to go with max, and then I can provide a volume description. This is something like creating partitions on an operating system. So I'm going to skip the volume description for now and click on next. and then it is going to ask us for a file system. Normally with normal operating system like the Linux operating system, you get the ext file format or NTFS and stuff like that. But in this Synology you only get two file systems. One is the ext4 same as Linux and the other is BTRFS. Now this BTRFS file system is really unique as it performs faster sharing, faster folder quotas and stuff like that, with the additional benefit of security and protection. So I'm just going to go with BTRFS and then click on next. And then you have this overview page. So basically these are the settings that you are going to go with. So if you are happy with these settings, then simply click on apply and the storage pool would begin. So click on OK to confirm that you really want to delete all of the data present in these two devices and create a new storage pool. Once you click on OK, you need to wait for a few moments for the process to fully complete. So as soon as the storage pool has been created, you can see that it shows you the health of the storage pool and it says it is currently healthy. It shows you the information about the storage pool, and right after the storage pool has been created, it shows you that you can take a quick tour, or the assistant is going to take you through the quick tour. But we are not going to go with that. So let's just skip that. And then to our right, we have these little tiny widgets which display us the health of our storage pool, the uptime of the NAS device, and the resource monitor as well, which shows us the current percentage of used CPU and RAM. We can simply minimize that, and then let's close down this storage manager. So now we are done with setting up our storage pool and volume. So in the next video, we are going to go over the first look of this operating system, which is DSM. So at the time of this recording, we are currently running the version DSM 7.1. Maybe when you are watching this tutorial, you might have a different DSM version, but generally the things are going to be quite similar. So right off the bat, on the desktop we have these four icons. The first one is the package center, the second one is the control panel, and then we have the file station, and then we have the DSM help. On the top right, we have these notifications, we have user accounts, we have widgets, and then we have a search icon. And on the top left, we have this icon for the main menu. Now if we open up this main menu, you can see that the user interface is quite similar to a Linux operating system. Well, through this you can easily conclude that this DSM is based on a Linux operating system. So in the package center, if you open that up, you need to click on accept the agreement. You have all the different packages and the different utilities that you can install on your Synology and on the DSM, and you can even run services like Apache, Docker, Git, MariaDB, Joomla, Node, and so much more. So basically, the thing with Synology NAS is that it is not only a NAS, it provides you a complete server on its own. And it can even work with a server that is hosted onto the internet using Apache and other packages that are available within this package center. Now currently, if we go over to the installed packages, it tells us that we have something installed as hybrid share. Now for me, it says that an update is available, so I'm just going to click on update and update the package that is installed on my NAS. And then my hybrid share has been updated. Apart from the package manager, we have this control panel. So this control panel gives you access and control over your Synology NAS. But we will talk about this in a little more detail later on in this course. Apart from that, we have the file station on our desktop. Now file station is currently running, but there are no current shared folders that can be viewed within this file station, and we are not going to go over this shared folder creation wizard right now because this is a first look video. So let's close that down. Other than this, if I open up the main menu once more, that you can see we have a lot of different applications here as well. So we have the resource monitor, and this resource monitor has a dedicated task manager inside it. You can check the connections, you can check the speed limits, you have performance alarm, and then your default resource manager. Other than that, you have the support center, you have the storage manager, you have the security advisor, you have the authentication service, and then you have the SA and manager, which we will talk about in a little more detail later on in this course. So that was all about the first look of DSM 7.1 running on our Synology 1821 Plus NAS device. So let's talk about logging into your NAS and shutting down the NAS. So basically, in the previous video, we were connected to our NAS in the same session, and in the same session we had installed our DSM inside our NAS, and we had our first look of the DSM within the same session. So now when we have lost that session, or if the session has expired, or if we are just visiting our NAS after a few days, then how do we log into our NAS? So there are three different ways of logging into your NAS. In this video, I'm going to explain two of them, because the third one is actually the QuickConnect or the Direct Connect, in which we need to configure our Direct Connect. We will do that later on. Anyways, the first method is actually knowing the IP address of your NAS. So I know that my NAS is hosted on 192.168.18.125 and then the port number is 5000. So if I simply enter that URL in my browser, I would be brought to this login screen. If you remember from the configuration wizard that I had named my NAS as Linux NAS, so I can just simply type in admin account username and then the password, and then I would be able to log into my NAS just like that. But there is another way which we have actually used previously for the configuration. So let me just close down my browser and reopen it. So the second method is to actually go over to the web assistant, which is find.synology.com. So this actually just searches for the Synology device on our network. Now we know what this is and what this does because we have used it during the first connection of our Synology device. So once we get this screen, simply click on connect and you would be brought to the same login screen. Now since I've already connected to this NAS and I've chosen the option to stay sign in, that is why it did not ask me for the login credentials. Anyways, that was a way of getting inside your NAS. Now to shut down your NAS, there are two different methods as well. The first one is using this DSM or the web assistant. Just simply click on this profile icon and then click on shutdown. And the other method is to actually head over to your NAS and press the power button for 3 seconds. After those 3 seconds, you would hear a beep. Now once you hear that beep, you can release the power button, and after that, the shutting down process of the NAS would begin. So that was how to log into your NAS and how to shut down your NAS securely. So in this video, we are going to talk about the Synology Download Center and the Synology Assistant. Now, we have used the Synology Assistant in the previous videos, so basically this find.synology.com is the Synology Web Assistant. But this time around, we're going to go over the Synology Desktop Assistant. For that, we're going to simply come over here and search Download Center Synology. So we're going to go over the first link, which is going to take us to the Synology's official website. And from here, we need to select our product. So our product is a NAS device, and then we can select the definite model. So simply click on this drop down list and then search for DS1821+, which is my Synology device. Once you do that, you have the operating system that you can install inside your Synology, which is the DSM 7.1.1, or you can go to the desktop utilities. And then there are other cool things that you can download with the download center. So basically you have all of the different packages, the documentation, including the hardware installation guide, Android apps and EOL products. But for now, we're only concerned with the desktop utilities. So in the desktop utilities, you can have the Synology Assistant, Synology Drive client, Synology Chat client, and so much more. This time around, we are only concerned with the Synology Assistant. So simply click on this blue button that says download and then download the Synology Assistant according to the operating system that you have installed on your host machine. So since I'm running a Windows operating system, then I'm going to download the Windows version. Now once the Synology Assistant has been downloaded, simply open up the folder in which you have downloaded it and then double click on the exe file. Then go over the installation process to install the Synology Assistant onto your desktop. Once that is done, simply click on install, and at the end, simply click on finish or simply check this box that says run Synology Assistant and then click on finish. After doing this is going to open up this Synology Assistant. Now, this is going to simply take a few moments to search the network for Synology drives, and then at the same time, you might get this Windows Firewall option, so you need to click on allow access. Now if the Windows Firewall has blocked the searching process, then you might get this error that your device has not been listed within this Synology Assistant. In that particular case, simply click on the search button and then wait for the search to finish. Even though the search has not finished, our device, which was named as Linux NAS, has been listed right over here. Now to connect to this device, we're simply going to click the name and then click on this button that says connect. Now that opens up the Synology NAS on the web. So that was another way of accessing your Synology drive. So anyways, that was the Synology Download Center and the Synology Desktop Assistant. So now we are going to quickly wrap up this section. So in this video, we're going to talk about the personal profile settings. So simply come over to the Synology NAS's desktop, and then to the right you have this icon that looks like a person. Then simply click on it and then go over to personal settings. Now within these personal settings, you get different options and different tabs. At first we have the account. So that is the name of the account that we are using to connect to our Synology NAS. So the name is written right over here. You can add in a description. You can even add in an email for this particular username. and then you can choose the display language or your preferred display language. After that, you even have the account activity. So if you want to check out the account activity, then simply click on this button. This is going to open up this dialog box containing all of the account activities, starting off with the current connected users, and then you even have the login history. So if you want to kill this connection which I am using to access the Synology NAS, then simply click on this little red icon. After that, if you scroll down, we have the password tab right over here. So if I want to change my password, then I simply need to click on this button which says change password, and then I need to confirm my current password and then type in a new password. Just make sure to retype the password and then click on apply to apply that password, but I'm not going to do that right now. And then we even have the sign-in methods, and underneath this tab we have the two-factor authentication. So basically a two-factor authentication is the authentication that occurs when you log in into your account. Then you get an additional code sent to your mobile device or the authenticator application on your mobile device, which is required for you to complete your login process. So this is actually really helpful in case you ever lose your credentials to someone else, or they are maybe leaked or hacked, but they still won't be able to log into your Synology NAS because of this two-factor authentication. After that, within this personal tag, we have the display preferences. It basically is to customize your Synology NAS operating system, which is a DSM, according to what you want. So you can choose the date format, the time format, the main menu style, the desktop icons, and the text color. So that's totally up to you on how you want to personalize your DSM. And then we have email delivery, which we are not going to talk about right now because we're going to set up email notifications later on in this course. Afterwards, we have the quota and other settings that you can play with. So that was all about the personal settings in the Synology NAS's DSM operating system. So now let's talk about widgets on the Synology NAS's DSM operating system. So to open up the widgets tab, the very first thing that you're going to do is that you're going to come to the rightmost tab and then click on widgets right from here. So this is going to show you the selected widgets onto the desktop. Now if you want to see some other widgets that are available in the DSM, then simply click on this plus icon, and right over here you have a list of all the widgets that you can use by default. So we have the storage, the connected users, schedule task, file change log, and recent log. So let's just go with the storage one. So now that we have turned on the storage widget, we have this little screen on our desktop that tells us about the storage that has been consumed out of the total available storage. Let's move on to the next widget. So if I simply click on the plus icon and then click on connected users, then it is going to show me the current connected users with the Synology NAS. Now this little tiny widget is really helpful for an administrator of the Synology NAS so that it can kick out unwanted users or maybe cut out their connection if they are not required. And then we have the scheduled task widget. This shows you all of the scheduled tasks that you have or the administrator of the Synology has assigned to the Synology NAS. After that, we have the file change log. This basically contains the file change log of the Synology NAS and nothing too special. At the end, we have the recent logs, which contains all of the recent logs of the Synology NAS. And then we also had system health and resource monitor, which we had previously covered but not in much detail. So this is the resource monitor showing you the CPU usage and the RAM usage. And then we have the system health notification, and it says that currently your Synology NAS is working well. Now there is another option within widgets, and that is to simply pin a particular widget onto the tiny little bar right over here. Now to do this, what you're going to do is that you're going to come to the widget that you want to pin and then click on this icon. So once you do that, that widget is going to remove itself from this widget list and place itself in this top right bar. And if you want to drag it back to the widget list, then simply click on it and it will come back to the widget tab. And then we have this icon, double up arrow, which is going to basically minimize the widget within this list. Another thing that I would like to add is that not every widget can be placed in this top right bar. So if I were to place this health bar, that I can do. But if I were to simply place this storage bar up there, I'm not able to do that because I don't see that icon over here. Anyways, that was the basic information about the widgets in the Synology NAS's operating system DSM. This is going to be the last video of this section. So in this video, we're going to show you that how can you connect to your Synology NAS from within the file explorer of any of your PCs connected to the same network. There are two different ways to do this. First, by having a link that is provided within the Synology NAS, or by going over to the network settings of your host system. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open up a file explorer in my Windows operating system, and then if I simply scroll down right over here, you can see that I have this network tag right over here. Normally, we would go over to this PC and start accessing our files that are stored inside that particular PC. But since we are working with a Synology NAS that is connected to a network, we need to go over to network. When you go to the network, it is going to show you these two different devices. So we have a computer named as Linux and NAS. Basically, this is the operating system that is running on the NAS. And then we have NAS as other devices. Now, if I were to simply click on other devices, this is going to open up the same web link in my browser to access the Synology NAS. And if I were to go over to the computer one, that is going to open up the file storage, which is of 3.5 terabytes into my file explorer. Now there is still another way to access your Synology NAS within the file explorer. For this, head over to DSM, click on main menu and then click on control panel. And then you're going to go over to file services. So within this file services, you have two different links for the file explorer for Windows and for the finder in Mac. So if you're using Mac, you're going to simply copy this URL and paste it inside the finder, and if you're using Windows, you're going to copy this link and paste it inside the Windows Explorer. So since I'm working on a Windows based operating system, I'm going to copy this link, head over to my file explorer, paste that link in this URL box and then hit enter. Now that is going to open up the Linux NAS volume that I have enabled. Now at first you might even be asked about the credentials. So the credentials are going to be the same one that you have used to create an account on the Synology NAS. Anyways, that was network connectivity with the Synology NAS using your main operating system, which can be Windows and Mac. So in this section, we will talk about all of the configurations that you can do within the Synology NAS. So we are going to go over the storage pool, we're going to go over volume creation in much more detail, then we're going to go over shared folders and all of the other configuration that we get with this Synology NAS. But for now, we're just going to get started with users and groups. After that, in the next video, we will discuss RAID configuration before jumping inside the storage manager, because we need to have some kind of information about the different categories of RAIDs before jumping into the storage manager. Anyways, let's get started with this video. So in this video, we're going to talk about users and creating new users and creating new groups. So simply click on this menu icon and then head over to control panel and then simply click on users and groups. After that, you would be brought to this page from where you can see a list of already created users. So by default, we have the admin and guest, and then this one that we created during the installation of DSM 7.1. Now to create a new user, it is very simple. Simply click on this create button and then you would open up this user creation wizard. So I'm going to call this one as test user 1, and then you can add in the description for this test user 1. So I'm just going to leave the description as blank for now, and after that you need to provide an email for the user. So I'm just going to call this one as testuser1@test.com. Now since this is a demonstration, that is why I'm using a fake email address, but when you're creating actual users for your Synology NAS, make sure to provide in correct information about the email. After that, simply type in a new password, and once you have done that, make sure to reconfirm that password. And after that, if you set up your email configuration, which we would do later on in this course, you can choose this option which is going to notify the user on the email provided right over here. And then what you can do is that you can simply check this, which is going to disallow the user to change his password. And then you can simply click on next. Now after clicking next, you will be brought to this page from where you can assign this user to a particular group that you have already created. Now by default, we have these groups. We have the administrators, and then we have the HTTP, which are the users that have the web service, that have the access to the web services. After that, we have a default group of users. So I'm just going to put it inside the default group of users and then click on next. After that, if you have created a shared folder, you can assign this user access to that particular shared folder with the following permissions. You can go with no access, read and write permission, or the read only permission. But since I have not gone through the shared folder creation up until this point, so that is why I will create a new user in which I will show you how to assign access of a shared folder to that particular user. Anyways, for now I'm just going to click on next, and then you will be asked about the user quota. Again, I'm going to click on next for now. After that, these are the application permissions that the user can have. Now if you want the user to have access to the FTP services of our Synology NAS, then simply click on allow right next to this FTP tag. Anyways, for now I'm just going to go with the blank default setting and then simply click on next. After that, it is going to ask you about setting up a default speed for that particular user. Now this is really beneficial if you want to manage users depending upon their priority. Anyways, once you're satisfied with this setting, simply click on next, and then you would be brought to this page which is going to show you all of the configuration that you're going to go with. All of these configurations are correct, then simply click on done and it would create a new user. Right over here we have test user 1. Next up we have how to create a group. So basically a group is nothing but a set of rules defined for a group of users. Now to create a group, simply head over to the group tab and then click on this create button. And then you're going to simply provide the information about the group name. So I'm just going to call this one as, and then you can also provide the description for this group. Afterwards, simply click on next. And then it is going to ask you if you want to add in the already existing members into this group. So if you want to, then simply click on this checkbox and then click on next. After that, again it asks you if you want to assign share folder permissions. So go ahead with next, and then it asks you for the group quota, go click on next, and then again it asks you for the application permissions. Now you can see that we had the same settings for when we were trying to create a user and the same settings for when we are trying to create a group. Basically, when you have created a group, it acts as a template for all of the users that are going to be added to this group. So after you have assigned the permissions, then simply click on next. Same goes for the group speed limit, and then you would get this confirmation page. So once you have confirmed your settings, then simply click on done. Now that is going to create this group right over here. Now editing or deleting a group and a user is very simple. To edit, simply click on this edit button, and then you have all of these settings that you have previously chosen. So you can change them from here. And to delete, simply click on this delete icon and then confirm by clicking on delete once more. And the same settings apply to users. So if you want to edit a user, then simply click on this edit button, and if you want to delete a user, then simply click on this delete button. Anyways, those were the basic configuration of users and groups in the Synology NAS operating system DSM. In this video, we are going to talk about the storage manager in the Synology NAS. So simply connect to your Synology NAS, and once you're inside the DSM, then simply click on the main menu, and then right over here you would find the storage manager. Now if you're working on an older version of DSM, then you would find the icon to be a little different, but you still would be able to see the storage manager in the main menu. So open up the storage manager. Now we're going to cover all of the options that are available within this storage manager. So right off the bat, we have this overview tab. Now in this overview tab, at number 1, we have the health of the whole system. So the whole storage system, storage pool including with the volumes are healthy. And then we have the volume usage. So basically it tells me the amount of storage that I have used from all of the created volumes. Currently I'm only running one volume of 3.5 terabytes. So that is why it is telling me that I've used 79 MBs out of 3.5 terabytes in the only volume that is available. After that, it shows us a graphical representation of your Synology NAS, the name that you're given it, and then you have all of these bays right over here. Since it is an 8 bay station, so we have 8 bays or 8 drive sets, and if I hover over the two that are slightly green, this means that these are the ones that are actually connected. If I click on it, that is going to open up this HDD or SSD information tab, which we are going to cover in this video but later on. Anyways, back to the overview. So after that, we have the scheduled tasks. So basically, all of the tasks that you have scheduled or that are scheduled by the Synology NAS operating system are going to be written right over here, along with the task type, the target, the status, and the next runtime. So that was the basic overview inside the storage manager. The next tab is actually storage. So if I click on storage, that is going to open up these two options. The first is the storage pool and then the volume. Now within this tab, we basically get the overview of the storage pool that we have previously created in the initial configuration and the volume that we had created in the initial configuration. Now if you are like me, you might be wondering that what is the difference between a storage pool and the volume. So basically a storage pool is the collection of all the drives that you are going to use and the configuration on which you are going to use to store data. And out of this storage pool, what we can do is we can create multiple volumes. So basically, volumes can be considered as partitions. So if you have worked on Windows operating system, then you might have an idea of what partitioning is. It's basically dividing a bigger storage pool into smaller chunks that can be individually configured and used to store data. So we have the health of the storage pool. On my NAS, it says that it is completely healthy. And then we have this information tab. Now within the information tab, the very first thing that we get is the RAID type. So when I configured this NAS in the initial configuration, I had chosen the RAID type to be SHR, which is the Synology Hybrid RAID with data protection for 1 drive fault tolerance. So that is why my whole storage pool is of 3.6 terabytes instead of 8 terabytes. And then we have the status for data scrubbing. Now the status says that it is ready. That means that I can run the data scrubbing whenever I want to. I can simply click on this run now button and it would ask me to confirm and run the data scrubbing. Now you might be wondering what data scrubbing is. Basically, data scrubbing is a data maintenance feature that goes through the storage pools and the drives connected to that storage pool and performs various checks. And then it has the information about the last performed data scrubbing. So I had never performed the data scrubbing yet, so it says never performed yet. And then you have the information about the drives that are connected within this storage pool. So basically you can create multiple storage pools depending upon the drive that you want to connect to those storage pools. So since I'm running an 8-bay NAS, that means that I can create 8 individual storage pools, but that is not a good option. The better option is actually to divide the drives into multiple storage pools and have them configure on different RAID configurations. Anyways, at the top we have this create button. Now this create button can be used to create a storage pool. This can also be used to create a separate volume from within a storage pool, and this can also be used to create SSD cache. Now, if I were to simply click on create a storage pool, then it would say that no drives are available for storage pool creation. This is because I have used 2 drives and both of these drives are being used within this storage pool. So if I were to connect a third drive, then I would be able to create a new storage pool. And if I were to simply select on create volume, it says that no available storage pools for creating volume. Basically the storage pools that are currently available are all consumed. In the next video, however, we are going to delete the storage pools and volumes, and we are going to go over the configuration of creating a new volume. Anyways, the next tab is scheduling data scrubbing. So you can schedule the data scrubbing as you schedule any other task. So simply click on enable data scrubbing schedule, and remember, you might not even get this option available in multiple NASs. Data scrubbing is not supported by all of the models of NAS. So you need to make sure that your NAS does have this data scrubbing feature available. So what you can do is that you can select the storage and then choose the frequency of the scheduled task. So I can choose it as repeat monthly, or I can run it now. So I'm just going to go with the schedule and then click on save. That is also going to run data scrubbing now, since I have not done that in the previous month. So once that is done, you will get this kind of notification that the system has completed data scrubbing on storage pool 1. If I were to head over to overview, I would see in the task scheduled that data scrubbing is now scheduled as well. Coming back to our storage pool, the next thing is hot spare. So hot spare is nothing but using your free available drives to protect the other storage pools. So basically, I'm using currently 2 drives to create my storage pool, and if I have a third free drive of comparatively less storage, then I can use it as a spare for my storage pool. So basically, when a storage pool degrades, the hot spare drive can automatically repair the failing drive in the storage pool. So that is a really good feature that you can go with. Anyways, the next is the SSD cache advisor. So as the name suggests that it is an advisor, and it tells you what is the ideal read-write cache size that you should assign to a particular SSD cache. And the last option is global settings. In the global settings, we get space reclamation schedule, which is also a task. We have RAID resync speed limits, which you can set, and then we have fast repairs. So basically, it is a feature that helps you shorten the time needed for a degraded drive to come back to a healthy status. Anyways, in the storage tab, we have this sub tab, which is volume. Basically, if you simply scroll down, we get this status of the volume. And then we have these 3 tiny options right next to volume and storage pool. For volume, the options are to change the RAID type, to remove the storage pool, and to go over the settings. And the settings only include the description because all of the other settings were set during the initial configurations. And for the volume, the settings are usage details, which are currently being displayed, file system defragmentation. Now I'm going to assume that you know what defragmentation is. It's also a process to manage your data in a better way. And then you have to remove this volume. And then you have settings, within you can choose the record file access time, the modify size, usage details, and so much more, even the low capacity notifications. Now the last settings that we get with the storage manager is the HDD or the SSD setting. So basically, this is going to show you the information about the connected drives, whether they are hard disk drive or solid state drives. So since I've only connected hard disk drives to my Synology NAS, so that is why I'm getting these stats on my screen. So we have the health information, we have the smart test review, and then we have the history. After that, we have locate drive. So if you want to figure out which drive is placed at which bay in the Synology NAS physically, then you can simply click this option and then click on locate. What this would do is that it would change the color of the LED of that particular hard disk drive in the storage bay. Anyways, after that we have the logs. Logs contain all of the warnings and errors and the notifications that are related to these particular drives. And then we have the test scheduler. In here you can basically set up multiple tests to be executed on your hard disk drives or solid state drives. Since I'm only working with hard disk drive, I have the smart test, and if you're working with the solid state drive, then you would have this iron wolf health test as well. So you can schedule them from here. And at the very end, we have the settings for the hard disk drive and the solid state drive. So we have the health report to be sent to your notifications as an email. You have the notification for bad sector warning, SSD estimated lifespan notification, and the drive database. So these were all of the settings that you get with the storage manager in the DSM 7.1. In this video, we are going to be focusing on deleting and creating a new storage in the Synology NAS's DSM 7.1. So open up your Synology NAS and then head inside the main menu and go to the storage manager. Now within this storage manager, you're going to go over to storage and volume. And then in the initial configuration, we had already created this volume. So the very first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to delete this volume so we can use the same storage pool to create different volumes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply click on the three dots right over here and then choose remove. After that, it is going to ask you for the confirmation, so click on this red button that says remove, and then it is going to ask you for another confirmation, so click on erase all data, and then it is going to ask you for the password for DSM, so simply type that in and then click on submit. Now this is going to run this process and delete the volume. So as you can see right over here, it says removing / unmounting the volume. So wait for this process to be completed. Now once the deleting process is done, you would get this notification that the system has successfully removed the volume 1. Now what we can do is we can use the storage pool to create new volumes. So to create a new volume, simply click on this create icon and then click on create volume. Now this is going to open up the create volume wizard. Now you can choose the storage pool that you want to create the volume. So I'm only running one storage pool, so I'm going to choose that one, and it is going to show you the total capacity of that particular storage pool. Now from within this maximum capacity, you can create the size of your volume. So I'm going to go with a size of 1024 gigabytes. So with that, I'm going to click on next. You can also choose this max option to simply select all of the available storage space inside that particular storage pool. And then once you're satisfied, simply click on next. And then you need to choose a file system. So previously when we were creating a volume, because of the initial configuration, we had gone with the BTRFS. So this time around, I'll go with ext4 and BTS, both of them. So let's just go with ext for this 1 terabyte volume. And then you will be brought to this page from where you can confirm the settings that you're going with, and then simply click on apply. Now that is going to take a few moments, and then create our volume with 1 terabyte of data storage and ext4 format. So right over here it is saying that it is creating the volume, creating the processing, and so much more. So simply wait for this process to fully complete. So right now the volume has been created, but it is working on optimizing the file system for that particular storage. So in the meantime, we are going to create another volume. So simply click on create volume, and then this time around we are going to use all of the remaining space so that we have another volume. So simply click on max and then click on next. Let's just add the description this time around. So and then simply click on next. Then we are going to go with the BTRFS file system and then click on next, and then we're going to simply click on apply to create this second volume as well. Now this time around, we're going to wait till both of these file systems have been created and optimized. So once you see the status of both of these volumes, that means that both of these volumes have been created, and you can see the tiny description right next to the name of the volume. So in the next video, we're going to create some shared folders depending upon the volume that we are going to choose. Anyways, that was it for creating and deleting volumes in the DSM 7.1. In this video, we're going to set up the SSD cache. So in the hardware walkthrough video, we did not show how to install the SSDs inside the DS1821 Plus, and the reason for that is every model is different and the place to install the SSD is different on major devices. To know where to place the SSD within your NAS device, make sure to check out the user guide that comes with your NAS device, or you can get that same hardware guide from the Synology's website. Anyways, come to your DSM, and from here simply open up the main menu and head inside the storage manager. Now you can already see that you have connected the SSDs if you go inside the HDD or SSD tab, and you can see that the cache device 1 is not initialized. Same goes for cache device 2, and the SSDs can be used as cache devices, not as a storage pool. Now to confirm this, we can go over to the storage and click on create and then click on create storage pool, because the reason for that is you might think not that you have additional storage space in the form of SSDs, you can use that in the storage pool. So if I now click on create storage pool, I will get this error that there are two drives that do not meet the drive requirement and cannot be selected. So that confirms it that we cannot use SSDs as storage pool. So now to create an SSD cache, simply click on create and then click on create SSD cache. Now that is going to open up this create SSD cache wizard, and the very first thing that you're going to do is that you're going to choose the volume on which you're going to attach your SSD cache. So I'm going to go with the volume 2. And then after that click on next, and then it is going to ask you what is going to be the mode of your cache. So you can go with read write cache or read only cache. Now you can read about these cache modes right over here, but the main part is that if you want to create a read and a write cache, then you need at least 2 SSDs for one volume. And if you want to create a read only cache, then you need at least 1 SSD for that particular volume. So I'm just going to go with a read write cache, which is going to utilize both of my SSDs as caches. So simply choose that option and then click on next. After that, it is going to show you this warning in this tiny little dialog box which says that do not remove the SSDs directly from the physical NAS. And if you want to remove the SSD, then come over to the storage manager and then click on safely remove that storage. Then simply click on that I understand and click on continue. After that, it is going to ask you for the type of RAID that you're going to go with this particular cache. So since I'm going with a read write cache, I can only go with RAID 1 configuration, which has a minimum number of drives equal to 2. Choose that option and then click on next. After that, it is going to ask you to select at least 2 SSD drives, so select that and then click on next. So in here you can choose the capacity that you want to give to the cache. So I have attached 2 400GB SSDs, and due to RAID 1 configuration with 1 drive fault tolerance, it shows the total as 372 GB. So I'm just going to change it to 100, or let's just go with 200 GB. And then we can pin all the BTRFS metadata, which was the file system type of the volume 2, to SSD cache. So click that option and then click on next. After that, it is going to show you this confirmation screen. So when you're satisfied, simply click on apply, and then you need to confirm it one last time. Now you can see that our SSD caches are being displayed right over here. Along with it says that RAID 1 is enabled with data protection, which basically means that it has a 1 drive fault tolerance, and it shows SSD cache icon right next to volume 2. Now out of 372 GB, we have only used 200 GB for volume 2 cache. We can use the remaining for volume 1 cache as well. For that, simply click on create SSD cache and choose volume 1 and then click on next. Again, I'm going to go with read write cache. Click on I understand, click next, and then choose the max size, which is going to be 172 GB. Click on next, click on apply, and then click on OK. Now I have successfully used my 2 NVMe SSDs as SSD cache for both of my volumes. Now another thing that you could have done was go inside the SSD cache advisor and select the volume that you want to attach a cache to. So for example, if I want to attach a cache to volume 1, I would simply click on analyze and then click on start analysis. And then you need to wait for the analysis to be completed. Now the process is going to go on for a very long time. Now anywhere in the middle of the process, you will get this estimated cache size depending upon your daily usage of data. So at that point, you can either stop the analyzation process in the middle, or you can just wait for the final result. What I'm going to do is, I have an estimated idea of 4 GB, so I'm pretty happy with this, so I'll just stop the analyzation process. Now what I can do is, now I can create a new SSD cache depending upon the size that has been advised to me by the SSD cache advisor. Anyways, that sums up this video on how to set up SSD cache on your Synology NAS. In this video, we're going to actually talk about how to create a shared folder inside your Synology NAS. So creating a shared folder is where you allow users to add in the data over the network to your Synology NAS. Now if I were to open up my file explorer and head over to the network and head inside the Synology NAS, which is Linux Mint NAS, you can see I have nothing. The folder is completely empty, and the worst thing is that I cannot add or create anything right over here. Now this is because there are no share folders available within the Synology NAS. When a share folder is created, the volume on which the data is going to be stored is selected, and the users that are allowed to store data within that particular share folder are also selected. So that is exactly what we are going to do. Now to create a share folder, you can simply come over to the file session from the desktop or open it up from the main menu. Now it is going to say that you have no share folders available, so you should create one. So clicking on OK would open up this page, which is a share folder creation wizard. Now within this wizard, you are going to be asked about the name of the share folder. So I'm just going to call this one as folder 1, and I'm going to add in the description only for admin. And then the location means the volume on which you are going to store this particular share folder. So the volume 1 is actually 1000 GB and the volume 2 is 2.4 TB. So I'm just going to go with volume 1 And then you have these little checkboxes, hide this shared folder in my network places. Basically, it is not going to show up in my host operating system, which is Windows. Hide subfolders and files from users without permission. You can hide the subfolders for other users. So this is a very good option. The choice is totally up to you. And if you want to enable a recycle bin system, then you can enable that over here as well. Anyways, simply click on next to move on to the next step. Now the next step is to put an encryption on the shared folder. So if you want to put an encryption apart from the user permissions, now a particular user can be assigned permission or access to a particular shared folder, but if you want to assign an encryption apart from that, then you can simply encrypt the shared folder by clicking on this checkbox and typing in an encryption key. Well, I'm not going to do that right now. Then click on next. After that, we have settings for data checksum. Well, this is something that is not recommended on the following conditions which are mentioned right over here. So I'm just going to leave that as it is and move on to the next option. Now on the next screen, it is going to ask us to confirm the settings that we're going for. So the folder name, description and the location. And then click on next. After that, it is going to ask you about the user permission. So which users are going to have access to this particular folder. So I'm going to give read-write permissions to my admin123 and then click on apply. Now our folder has been created. Now we can exit from this control panel and head inside the file station. Now inside here, we are now inside the folder 1 and we have only one file, which is the recycle bin. We can create files, create folders, upload files, do some actions like copy, cut, delete. But the only thing we are concerned with is the settings. So in the settings, we have a lot of different settings that we can apply on the file station. So we can enable the file system log, which is going to maintain a log about every file, who created it, who moved it, who deleted it. Then we have settings for mounts and connections. Then we have settings for shared links, speed limit and security. Well, this is all that you can go through one by one. Anyways, let's talk about the file explorer in the main operating system. So head back to the main operating system. Click on File Explorer, go to Network and head inside your Synology NAS. In here, I now have the folder. Now, if I hover over it, I get the description only for admins. Now I can access it and inside here, I have only one file. So I'm just going to create a new text file, hello. And inside here, I'm going to say that this is my first stored file inside the Synology NAS and save it and exit from the Synology NAS. Now if I come over to DSM, open up my file station. So in the file station, I now have the hello.txt file. However, in the DSM, I cannot just open up this file. I can download this file. If I double click it, it would download it. Or I can open this file in a new tab. Anyways, that was how to create shared folders in Synology NAS. And by the way, shared folders are mostly created depending upon the users which are going to use them. So imagine that you have a department of finance and all of the people inside that department want to use your Synology NAS. Then you need to create a shared folder for that particular department. And you're also going to give permission to all of the users inside that department. In this video, we're going to talk about the shared folder permissions and user permissions for those shared folders. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to show you two ways that you can assign folder permissions to a user. So the very first way is when you create a new user. So simply go to control panel, go to users and group, and then create a new user. So I'm going to name this user as user2, or let's just go with test user2, and then give it a password. So after that, we come to this groups page. Now, if we have created a group that has access to a particular shared folder, then adding this user into that group would mean giving access for all of those folders to this user as well. But let's just not go over there, let's just simply click on next. After that, it is going to show you the folders that you have created in your Synology NAS, and from here you can give permission to your newly created user. So now, there are three types of permissions that can be granted to a user or a group. The first is no access. Well, it is pretty straightforward that the user has no access to the file or the folder, and when we are creating that shared folder, we can even choose that outside users which have no access to that particular folder cannot even see the subdirectories and subdomains. After that, we have the read-write permissions. So in the read-write permissions, the user can not only read the information, he can even write information to our Synology NAS. That means editing files, creating new files and saving them. And then at the last, we have the read-only permissions. In this particular permission, the user is considered to be a reader only. That means that he can only read the files or the information contained within those files, but he cannot edit them and he cannot create new files within the Synology NAS. So you can assign the permission to this one. So I'm going to assign folder 1 read-write permission to this particular user that we have just created, and read-only permission to developer. And then click on next. Now after that, we know that we need to set up these quotas, but I'm just going to ignore that. And then simply complete the creation wizard for this test user too. Similarly, we can create multiple users or create groups. So if I create a group, I'm just going to call this one as perm1, standing for permission 1. And I'm not going to add any user within this group. I'm just going to click on next and give developer read-write permissions and folder 1 read-only permissions to this particular group. After that, I'm going to create another user and I'm going to call this one as test user 3. And then I'm going to assign it the perm1 group and then click on next. As you can already see that instead of choosing the permissions manually from here, we have already given some permissions right over here, and that is because of the group that we have assigned to this particular user. Anyways, I'm just going to click on next and create this user. And now I will show you another way of adding permissions for users. Simply head over to the shared folders and choose the folder that you want to give the permission of. So if I want to give the permission of developer 1, I'm going to right click on it, click on edit, head over to the permissions tab, and from here I can manually choose each user to which I'm going to grant access to for this folder. So currently the test user 2 has the read only permissions. The test user 3 has read write permissions. So if I want to change anything, I can simply do that by coming over to this section. Other than users, I can even assign permissions to group from here. So simply click on this drop down menu and change it to local groups, and from here I can choose the permission. So these are the 3 different ways that you can use to assign permissions of a shared folder to particular users or to particular groups. Now the thing is that when you're working on a larger scale, manually assigning permissions of folders by coming over to shared folders and then right clicking them is a waste of time. The better way is to head over to users and group and then click on edit and then assign the folders that you want to give access to this particular user. Now this is much more easier and efficient, and if you increase the scale even more, then grouping users into groups and then assigning those groups some permissions is a much better and the most efficient way through which you can assign permissions to particular users. Anyways, that was the shared folder permissions in DSM 7.1. In this video, we are going to talk about the file station in the DSM and the login portal that you can create for every individual user. So let's start off with the file station. So simply open up the file station from the desktop. Now a file station is just like an file explorer in Windows, Mac and Linux. Now it can help you navigate through the files that are listed in your Synology NAS. So on the left we have this directory which contains a list of all of the shared folders, and it has a drop down arrowhead which opens up the subdirectories and files. If I simply head over to folder number 1, I had created this hello.txt file. Now I have multiple options that I can use for this file session, so I can create a new folder or a new shared folder by clicking on this create button. Then I can click on upload and upload through skip or upload with overwrite. And then I have this actions button. In actions button I can perform various actions, and the cool thing is that you can simply access these action options by simply right clicking inside this file explorer. And then we have tools for remote connections, mount remote folders, mount list and unmount. And then we have settings which we have gone through in the previous videos. Anyways, we are just going to quickly talk about this file station. So if I simply click on a file and then right click, I have multiple actions. So I can send that particular file as an email attachment, but for that we need to set up an email, which we are going to do in the next section. I can download it to my local PC, or I can open that up in the new tab. After that, I have again the option to create a new folder, add to archive or to compress this. Then I have actions to copy or move, cut, copy, delete and rename. And what I can also do is create a desktop shortcut. After that, I have properties through which I can search the info of this file and check the permissions. At the very end, I have the option to share. Now if you have set up QuickConnect or DDNS server, then you can use this share option to share this file externally outside of your network. Currently, it is showing me this IP address, but this is the local IP address within my network. What if I want to share this file externally? In that case, I would have to set up a QuickConnect. So that was all about the file station as an file explorer. Now let's talk about creating a login portal. So simply head over to the control panel, and in here you're going to see this option under system, which is login portal. You can easily customize the login portal of DSM, the file station and many other applications. So the very first tab is the DSM's login portal. Now you can click on edit and customize the login portal. You can change the page title, you can change the image, and you can give a personal logo of your company and even include a welcome message. And then you can even choose the ports that you're going to use for HTTP and HTTPS. And if you have a domain and you want to assign this IP address of this Synology NAS to that domain, then you can do that by simply typing your domain right over here. And if you want to create login portals for applications and services, then simply head over to the applications tab. Now, we already by default has this file station. Now, to set up a file station login portal, simply click on file station and then click on edit. The very first thing that you can see is to edit the login style, which is to edit the background picture, welcome message and the page title and so much more, but we are not concerned with that for now. And then we have the settings for the web services. So basically these are the settings that we are concerned with. So we can give an alias or we can give a custom port name. So I'm going to give a port number of 200 and the login portal is going to be at this particular IP address. Now again, you can point domain names to Synology packages. And at the very end, we have access control profile. So you need to create that profile to enable it. Well, before saving this, I'm going to change this from HTTPS to HTTP, and actually I'm going to give it something like 3000 and then click on save. After that, to access this file station portal, I'm going to open up an incognito mode and type in the IP address as 192.168.18.125, which is the IP address of my Synology NAS, and then the port number is going to be 3000 and then hit enter. As you can see that we come over to this particular login page. Now this has this file station logo. So this means that this is the login page for the file station application. So now I'm going to basically use the login credentials for the users that I've created in the shared folder permissions video and log in into my Synology NAS. And right after the login, you can see that it does not give us a desktop, it only opens up the file station. So that confirms it that this portal is only for file station. Anyways, that was all about file station and how to set up a file station login portal. In this video, we're going to talk about how to set up QuickConnect and how to set up DDNS in your Synology NAS operating system DSM. So from the desktop, open up the control panel and then click on external access. Now the very first tab is going to be QuickConnect, then DDNS, then router configuration and advanced. But we are only concerned with QuickConnect and DDNS. So to enable QuickConnect, you're going to click on this checkbox and then it is going to ask you to sign into your Synology account or sign up for one. So I'm just going to click on sign in, and that is going to open up this pop-up browser window in which you can type in your Synology account if you have one, and if you do not have one, then simply create one. So let me just quickly sign into my Synology account. After that, you would be brought back to this QuickConnect options. And once you have logged into your Synology account, you simply need to type in the QuickConnect ID. Now this can be anything of your choice. So I'm just going to type this one as Linux-hint. And then under the advanced section, simply go to the advanced settings, and here you have multiple options. So you can enable QuickConnect relay service, you can automatically create port forwarding rules, and then you can choose the permissions for the quick connected users. Currently by default, the following services or applications are allowed to use the quick connect. So we have mobile applications like DS Audio, DS Cam, DS File, we have file sharing and DSM. So for now, we're going to leave them as it is and click on OK. And your quick connect has been set up. Now as you can see that after a few moments, the quick connect is going to give you a link. Now you can use this link to connect to this website or to our Synology NAS even from outside the network. So if you want to give access to your users that are not connected to the same network, then you can do that with the help of this quick connect. And the another way to do the same exact thing is to set up a DDNS. So for that, simply move over to the DDNS tab, and in here we're going to create a new DDNS entry. So click on add, and then you're going to come over to this add DNS configuration. The very first thing that you're going to do is that you're going to choose a service provider. So I'm going to use a Synology service provider, so therefore I'm going to choose Synology. Now you can choose any other service provider, but for that you need to give your credentials for email and password. But for me that is Synology. And then you can choose a hostname. So I'm going to choose a different one than before. I'm going to name it as lhnas.synology.me. And after that, what I can do is I can check this box to get a certificate from Let's Encrypt and set it as default. Basically, this is going to enable the HTTPS connections with my Synology NAS, which is much more secure. So I'm going to click on this checkbox, and before confirming it, I'm going to click on this test connection icon and check the connection. So it is going to take a few moments, and the status turns to green, saying normal. And then to set it as default, I simply need to click on OK and then click on OK once more. Now again, it is going to take a few moments to set this DDNS configuration. Even it prompts us that it will take a while to set up the DDNS. Please wait for a moment and we will restart the web server. So be patient and wait for the restart. Now after the web server has been restarted, you see this entry inside the DDNS configurations. Now we can easily connect to our NAS using this host name or this URL. So I'm going to copy this one paste it inside a new tab, but not going to enter that. And then I'm going to change my Wi-Fi network so that I do not belong to the same network in which my NAS is located. And then I'm going to go with the link for QuickConnect. And just like that, I'm able to connect to my Linux Hint NAS even though I'm not inside the same network. And the host name is the one that I've set up in the DDNS configuration. So that is how you can set up a QuickConnect and a DDNS configuration to remotely access your NAS. In this video, we're going to talk about how to share a file externally using a share link. Start off by opening up the file station and head inside a shared folder. So I've created this shared folder named as testers, and inside here I have this testing report. Now I want to share it with a person who is not inside my network, who is not inside my Synology NAS, and I do not want to add that person inside my Synology NAS as a user. So what I can do is I can simply send this file, or more precisely send a link to that person for this file. So now to do that, simply right click inside the file session on the file and then head over to share. And then you would get this sharing link. All you have to do is simply copy this link or simply click on this button to mail this link to that particular person. Or you can simply generate this QR code and give this QR code to that person, and he would be able to access this file or download it in his PC. And in this share with the others option, we have the advanced option which have the validity period. Basically, we can assign a time for which this file is going to be shared. So we can share this file starting from a specific time and ending at a specific time, and then we can even limit the total number of accesses allowed within that time frame. So these are all of the options that we get with this share with others feature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply copy this link. And if you remember from the previous videos, previously when we were working with file station, this link contained the local IP address of my Synology NAS, but now this contains the external IP address, but now this contains the gofile.me link. Basically, to use this share with others features outside of your network, you need to have the QuickConnect enabled. So that is why I did not show this while showing off the file station. Anyways, simply copy this, click on save so that the file is shared, and then I can open up an incognito mode and paste the link right over here, and I would be able to get this file using an external link. Just like that, we have the file testing report.txt, and I have the option to download it. So if I click on download, that is going to download this file within my PC, and I can open it up once it's downloaded. And hello, this is the testing report that is shared externally are the contents of this file. So that was how to share a file externally using a share link with the help of File Station and QuickConnect. In this video, we're going to talk about how to delete a storage pool and how to delete volumes. So simply head over to the main menu and head over to Storage Manager. And then we're going to head over to Storage. And if you want to delete volumes, which we have done in the past videos, simply click on these three buttons and click on Remove. This time around, SSD caches have been also assigned to these volumes, so I'm just going to remove them along with that. And you need to provide the password for your admin account as well. Simply click on Remove and the volume would be removed from your Synology NAS. Now if you want to delete the storage pool as a whole, then simply click on these three icons and then click on Remove. And then you would be asked to confirm it, so click on the red button that says Remove, erase all data, and then your password, and then click on Submit. Now this is going to remove the storage pool from your Synology NAS. Now as you can see that the storage pool has been deleted, and in the storage menu we have nothing. After the last video, we are done with the configurations of Synology, or the configuration of all of the basic and important services of Synology. Other than that, you can set up many other things in the Synology, which include notifications, which include servers, which include services, and so much more. But we cannot cover all of them within this course, as new packages are available on the package center, and we cannot cover every package that is available in the package center or every service that is available in the package center. Anyhow, in this section, we're going to talk about notifications, resource monitor, logs, and previews. So let's start up with setting up a notification system. So what we can do is, within the Synology NAS, we can set up email notifications, the thing that we have been delaying throughout this course. To set up email notifications, simply open up the control panel and head on over to notification. Then you would be brought to this page. Now this page contains 4 different types of tabs. The first one is the email, the second is SMS, the third is push services, and the fourth one are the rules. But we are only concerned with the email one. So the very first thing that you're going to do is that you're going to simply check this box that says enable email notification, which is going to enable this form. And the very first thing that you do within this form is to sign in through the email which will be used by the Synology NAS. So simply click on sign in, or if you want to use some other kind of service provider, then simply click on this drop down menu and it is going to show you all of the available options. So we have Outlook, QQ and a custom SMTP server. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to go with the Gmail one and then click on sign in. That is going to open up this second tab, and in here I'm going to sign in using my email. And then you need to allow this permission, which is to send emails on your behalf. So simply click on allow, and then it is going to show you one final confirmation. So simply click on agree and your email would be signed into your Synology NAS just like this. After that, you have to type in the information about the recipient. So the very first thing that we have is a subject prefix. So I'm going to type in like your Linux sent NAS says, and then right over here we need to type in the email address of the recipient. Now this is mostly the email address of the admin, so I'm just going to type in my email address over here as well. And then you have the option to send welcome messages to the new users, so you can opt in for that as well. After you have done that, simply click on apply, and then you can even send a test email. So simply click on this button and then wait and check on the email of the recipient. So as you can see on the screen, this is the email that has been sent by our Synology NAS, and the subject is that your Synology NAS says test message from Linux sent NAS. And this is the email itself. Congratulations, you have successfully added or set up an email notification on Linux sent NAS. Coming back to our notification configuration, the second tab is for SMS, so you can set that up as well, and the third tab is for push notifications onto your mobile device. But we are not concerned with these, as we are only concerned with the rules. These are all of the rules that you can configure. Basically, these are the notifications that would be sent to your email or SMS or as a push notification on your mobile device. So you can basically customize the notification that you want to receive on your email address. And as you can see that we have a lot of notifications that can be sent to our email address. So make sure to do not go with default ones, but to create a customized notification system for your email address. Anyways, that was how to set up an email notification system on your Synology NAS. In this video, we're going to talk about the resource monitor in the Synology NAS's operating system, which is DSM 7.1. So we have previously gone through the resource monitor, but this time around we're going to go through it in a little more detail, as it is very crucial when you want to make notice of something. So simply open up the main menu and open up the resource monitor. In the resource monitor, the very first task or the tab that opens up is the performance tab. Now we can have an overview of the performance of all of the different components of the Synology NAS, like the CPU, memory, network, volume, and if you have created some kind of virtualization, then we have LUNs and NFS. Apart from this overview, we can head inside the details of each individual element like CPU, and it is going to bring up this graph along with the utilization and load averages as well. And then we have memory, so we have the memory composition, and all of these different colors means different things. And those things are mentioned right over here. So the gray means the reserved memory, yellow means the used memory, and so on. After that, we have the network. Now in the network, we have the total combined usage of the network, and then we have all of the 4 different LAN ports that are available in the Synology NAS's model DS1821+. Now if you're working with a different model, you will have a different number of LANs over here. After that, we have the disk usage or the disk performance. So we have the read speed, the write speed, and we can even view details by clicking on this button, and then we can choose from these list of drives to display their data in individual chart. So if I were to simply select cache drives and click on OK, and now if I hover over the graph, we can see that blue line would mean total, pink would mean cache device 2, and yellow would mean cache device 1. And this whole graph is set up to type throughput. Now we can change the type from here. After that, we have the volume that we have created. Similarly, for the disk one, we can change the things to show on the graph by selecting these options. After that, we have LUNs, which is for virtualizations, and NFS. Anyways, other than these performance monitors, we have the task manager. Now a task manager is very straightforward. We all have task manager running on different operating systems. They just tell you the services and the processes that are currently running on your PC. So the first tab is services, so we can see that we have a service named as DSM internal service, DSM desktop, QuickConnect, and so much more. Now these services are grouped according to the application, but if you want to get the exact name of the service that is running, you simply need to click on this arrowhead icon. So for DSM internal service, we have dbus daemon, find host D, host plug D, nginx, postgres, recycle bin, and so much more. Other than that, if you want to head over to processes that are currently being executed on our Synology NAS, then we can head over to the processes tab. And these are all of the processes that are running or they are configured to run at some point. Now if you look over the table over here, we have the process name, then followed by a process ID, followed up by the status, whether it's running or not, followed up by the CPU usage, the private memory usage and the shared memory usage. After the task manager, we have the connections. So connections basically tells you all of the connections that have been established with the Synology NAS at the current moment. Now we can easily export the connection list by simply clicking on export button, and that is going to give you a current log.html. Now if I simply click on it, it is going to open that in my browser. So this is the log for connections. And then we even have the accessed file. So if there is a user that is accessing a specific file, then we can see that log from this tab. Now in this connections option, we have the option to kill the connection or to cut off the connection of a particular users. Like I can kill my own connection right over here, or to deactivate users. Anyways, let's move on to the next setting, that is speed limit. Now speed limit is very simple. So if you have a service running that is consuming a lot of speed or a network speed, then you can simply tone it down. After that, we have the performance alarm. Basically, performance alarm means that you set a certain set of rules, and based upon those rules, the system is going to monitor the activities that is being performed and then create a log file. So simply head over to rules to create a rule, then click on create, and then you can choose what is the type of rule that you want to monitor. So if you want to monitor the services, then you can select that, then choose which type of service that you want. So I can just go with DSM desktop, and I'm going to send a notification or create a log when the CPU usage goes above 80%. And the level of alarm should be a warning or critical. Now this is basically what you can decide to get notifications off on your email and inside this performance alarm log. And at the end, we have the settings. Now settings only contains one setting, and that is the enable usage history. Now this function will record the system usage, allowing you to check the system loading afterwards. Anyways, that was it for resource monitor. Now this resource monitor has been again added to the notification section just because of this performance alarm. Now notifications means to get notified of something that has occurred on your Synology NAS, and having a CPU usage more than 80% is quite critical, or having it more than 100%, or having the temperature go up to very high numbers is very critical. So that is why we want to get notified when that kind of scenario occurs. Anyways, that's it for this video. In this video, we are going to talk about the log center that we can install from the package center. Again, this section is all about notifications and logs. So a good way is to use a package that is optimized for both. Head over inside the package center, shift over to all packages and search for log center. Then scroll down to all packages. So you would see this application, and this application is made by Synology Incorporation, so simply install it. Now it is going to take a few moments to install, and then you can choose where you want to install or the volume where you want to install. So I'm just going to go with volume 1 and then click on next, and then click on next again. Now all you have to do is wait for the installation process to finish. Right after the installation process is done, you can see that it is currently running. So simply click on this button to open it up, or you can even do that from the main menu. Like this is the log center. This log center is a complete log record keeping. At first we have the overview, and it tells you all of the logs that have been stored inside your Synology NAS. After that, if you scroll down, we have the last 50 logs. Even before we installed this package, we were still creating logs, or the Synology NAS was creating logs, and we can view them all in under one place. We even have a warning log right over here. Apart from the overview, we can head inside the logs by simply heading over to the logs tab. Now this is going to have a more detailed log experience. So we have all the logs, we can export them, and they are going to be downloaded to the user system, and we can open that up in the browser just like this, or we can clear them. Now we can even choose to download the logs in either HTML or CSV format. We can choose whether to download it from this server or from other servers, and we can even choose whether you want general logs, connection log, file transfer logs, or drives log. You can sort them out very easily. And then what you have is another option, that is archive. So basically you can archive logs and view them over here. After that, we have the notification settings. So you can set up different notification settings. For example, you can set that if the logs exceed 10 per second, then you get a notification. And then you can choose the severity as emergency, alert, critical, or error, critical, alert, emergency. And then you can even include kind of keywords. Anyways, that was the notification. After the notifications, we have the archive settings. So you have the storage destination for archives and the format of archives along with the rules for archive. And then what you can do is that you can send logs to specific servers or to specific Synology servers with the help of this option, log sending, and you can also receive logs using log receiving. And then you can manage the history by going over to the settings history. So this setting history is going to keep the logs for all of the settings of your Synology NAS. Anyways, Log Center is a very profound application to manage all of your logs of your Synology device under one package. In this video, we're going to talk about the security advisors that we get as a default in the Synology NAS. So to open up the security advisor, simply head over to the main menu and you would see this security advisor right over here, so open that up. Now when you start the security advisor for the first time, you would be asked to choose the purpose of using the security advisor or the purpose for choosing the DSL. So if you're using the Synology NAS for home and personal use, then go with the first option. And if you're using it for work and business, then go for the second option. Now, these two options are different because both of these options have different types of security that you must manage, or the security advisor is going to check those particular options. So for now, we're going to go with the home and personal use and then click on start. Now as soon as we click on start, the security advisor is going to go through the checklist and make sure that all of the security settings are up to the good standard. Now as soon as the scan is done, you would be graded by either good or warning. If you're graded as good, that means that there are no security breaches that can occur, or you're at least using the recommended settings for security for home and personal use. Now this can change. The same result can change when you move over to the work and professional use, but we will go with that later on in this video. Anyways, so this is the report of your security test. So in the panel, we have all of these different headings like malware, system, account, network and update. And you can easily check the details by simply clicking on the heading. Now, as soon as you click on the heading, we are moved over to the results tab and you can change the heading from here. So we have the general overview of the malware scan and we can change that to system scan, account scan, network scan and even the update scan. Now if you want to go over a specific scan like this one, no permission changes found in your log files, so simply click on it and then click on view. Now this is going to show you the details of this particular scan. So the details are unauthorized users may not modify the permissions of your log files, which is currently dealt with our settings. Now if you want to skip this scan, then simply click on skip, and if you want to check for only this particular event or this particular security issue, then you can click on the scan button right over here. Now if we come over to the overview page, we can see that this option generate report has been grayed out. Now this is because we still have to choose the directory where to store these kind of reports. So for that we are going to head inside the advanced option. We are going to skip the login analysis for now. So heading over to the advanced options, we have the different options like security baseline, scan schedule, report settings and so much more. So let's just start with the security baseline. At first we have the type of security that we want to confirm for either home and personal use or for work and business use. And both of these security settings have different checklists, so we can view the checklist by simply clicking on this hyperlink right over here. Now as you can see that for home and personal use, all of these are marked and these are unmarked. But if we head over to for work and business, we can see that a little more scans are checked as compared to the home and personal use. Now if we open up the checklist, we cannot untick or tick something from this setting. Now this is because these two plans are pre-made by the Synology NAS. And if you want to create your own scanning plan or scanning checklist, then you can do that by simply heading over to custom and then clicking on customize checklist. From this you get an empty sheet and you can choose the scan that you want to perform. So simply check the scans that you want to perform and then click on save. But for now, I'm going to leave it as for home and personal use. Anyways, coming over to the next scan settings, we have the scan schedule. So by default, the Synology NAS is set to scan every Saturday at 2:57. So if you want to change this, simply change the day. Let's just change it to Monday and let's just change it to 11 AM. And if we want to store the reports in a specific location, we can do that by simply heading over to the report settings. So to choose a storage location, simply click on select and then you need to have a shared folder, and within the testers, I'm going to create a new folder and I'm just going to call this one as system, and then I'm going to choose this folder and then click on select. Now what I can do is that I can enable monthly reporting or I can enable daily reporting, and we can even receive these reports in our notifications if we have set up the email notification, which we have done in the previous videos. Anyways, so these are the advanced settings for the security advisor. So I'm just going to click on apply and these settings are saved. Now let's head back over to the overview. As you can see that we have this option enabled, which is generate report. So I'm just going to click on it and this is going to generate the report of the scan. And if we click on yes, we can open up that report in the new tab. So this is the report. So no critical, high or medium security breaches or security threats found, and no login analysis have been found. Well, we are going to go over the login analysis in a minute. Now this is the result of all of the scans. So we can click on show all items and we can get a detailed overview of the scan. Anyways, let's try shifting the scan from home and personal use to work and business use. So for that, simply head over to advanced and change it to for work and business and then click on apply. And as soon as you do that, come over to overview and then click on scan once more. Now as you can see that with work and professional use, we have the warning. We do not have the good status like we did for personal use. Now this is because that if you want to use the Synology NAS in a work environment, you need to have much more security. And it recommends you, as it is a security advisor, it advises you that 2 system warnings need to be checked. So simply click on it to go over them. And it says that the severity is medium and what you need to do is do not allow DSM to be embedded with iframe. So these are the different settings that can be advised by the security advisor. So I'm just going to head over to the advanced section and change it back to for home and personal use. And now we are going to talk about the login analysis. So simply head inside the login analysis, and this login analysis would contain the attempts of all of the users that fail. Basically, if someone tries to breach into your Synology NAS and tries a wrong password, then that attempt would be notified within this login analysis section, and you would get the IP address from which the request was made. Anyways, that was all about the security advisor that we get with the Synology NAS. In this section, we're going to talk about the services and operations that we get with Synology. So these are going to be an extension of the previous section, nothing more. So basically we are going to talk about updates, we're going to talk about hardware and power settings, we're going to talk about how to SSH into our Synology NAS and stuff like that. So let's start with the first video, which is about the update of DSM settings. Now for this we need to head inside the control panel, and then we're going to go over to update and restore. Now these are all of the update and restore settings that we get with the Synology NAS. So at first we have the DSM update. If there is an update available, you would get a notification right over here that there is a new update available for the DSM. And the current status is listed in the green right over here, so it says that your DSM version is up to date. So currently I am running the DSM version 7.1.1 update 2. Now if I want to read the release notes, then I can simply click on this hyperlink and that is going to open up the release notes in the new tab. Anyways, we even have the option to manually download the DSM updates, and for this we need to choose a path from the local computer. Now remember, this local computer does not mean the Synology NAS, this actually means the operating system or the machine that you're using to access the Synology NAS. Anyways, before moving on to the next tab, we have the update settings. So we can choose the update settings whenever we want. So basically, we can choose whether we want to install the updates automatically and download them automatically, or we want to install the latest updates manually. So we can choose all of these settings from this dialog box. Anyways, the next tab is configuration backup. So basically you can create backups of your current settings. Now for this you need to simply click on this checkbox which says enable automatic DSM configuration backup, and then you can even choose an encryption on that backup. Now there are 2 options for encryption. You can have auto encryption or self-defined encryption. Anyways, you even get the option to manually export the system configuration backup file, which is a .dss file, to your local computer. Now again, this local computer does not mean the Synology NAS, this is actually the machine that you're using to connect to the Synology NAS. After this, you have the button to restore all of the default configurations of the DSM 7.1. Moving on to the next tab, we have the system reset. So basically we can restore the Synology NAS to its original manufacturer settings, erasing all of the data and all of the configuration, but there is an option to keep the admin password. So if I really want to erase all of the data, I simply need to click on this red button that says erase all data, and if I want to keep the admin password unchanged, then I can simply check this box and then click on the red button. After this we have the system recovery. Now we can create a backup point or a system restore point via active backup for businesses. Now to do this, we simply need to click on this red button that says restore system. And that is the last setting that we get under the section of updates and restore in Synology NAS's operating system. In this video, we are going to talk about the hardware and power settings that we get with Synology NAS's operating system DSM 7.1. To head inside the hardware and power settings, we need to head inside the control panel, and then from this system tab, we are going to head inside hardware and power. Now that is going to bring up this page which includes 4 different tabs for power management. Now the tabs are general, power schedule, HDD or hard disk drive hibernation, and UPS. So let's start with the general settings. So at the very top of the general settings, we have the memory compression. So we can enable the memory compression in order to improve the system responsiveness. Now this is a very cool feature, and by default it is set to active. After that, we have the options for power recovery. Basically, if we have a power failure or if the power is interrupted by any way, we can have our Synology NAS automatically restart when the power supply issue is fixed. For this, we need to simply click on this checkbox. After that, we have the settings to enable WOL on the LAN ports. Now WOL stands for Wake Up on LAN, and then we can choose the port on which we want to enable this feature. Now what this feature does is that upon receiving a magic packet on the particular LAN port, it is going to wake up our Synology device. Now if we enable WOL, that means that we must enable restart automatically when the power supply issue is fixed. After that, we have the beep control. So whenever you wake up the Synology device and whenever the Synology device is ready for use, it beeps once. That is because of this control setting. So we can have the beep come at for different purposes, such as if the cooling fan malfunctions, or if the volume or SSD cache is abnormal, if the system powers on and it is ready for use, or if the system shuts down after pressing the power button. After that, we have the settings for the fan. We can choose the speed mode of the fan. It can go to full speed, cool mode, quiet mode. It all depends upon the usage or where you have placed the Synology NAS. And then we have the LED brightness control. So basically the LED indicators on top of the hard disk drives and the LAN ports can be controlled with this slider. Moving on to the next tab, we have the power schedule. Now in the power schedule, we can create a plan to automatically wake up our Synology NAS and to shut it down at a specific time. So simply click on create and then you can choose what is the power schedule that you want to create. So if you want to create a startup power schedule, then simply choose startup, or otherwise simply choose shutdown. And then you can even choose when to apply this power schedule. If you want to wake up your Synology NAS every day, then choose daily, or simply choose weekends or weekdays. The choice is totally up to you. And then you can choose the time. So I can wake up my Synology NAS at 8 AM in the morning. Similarly, a shutdown plan can also be created. So simply click on the create button and choose shutdown, choose daily, and this time around I'm going to choose 8 PM. 8 AM is the startup time and 8 PM is the shutdown time every day for my Synology NAS. After that, we have the hard disk drive hibernation. Basically, if the SATA drives or the hard disk drives have been sitting idle, so they would be hibernated after a specific time period has elapsed. So by default, the time limit is set to 20 minutes, and for USB drives there is no time limit set. And you can even maintain the hibernation logs by simply checking on this box, and you can even enable auto power off. And for that, you need to set up a time limit. Anyways, the last tab inside the power section is the UPS. So you can connect a UPS, which is a Synology UPS server, with your Synology NAS device to prevent data loss when there is a power failure. Anyways, those were all of the options that we get with power and hardware settings. In this video, we're going to talk about the DHCP server configuration that we get with DSM 7.1. Previously, in the DSM 6, we had to manually configure the DHCP server. In DSM 7.1, the configurations are done by default, but you can still manage them and edit them. For this, simply head inside the control panel, and in the DSM 6, you would see a DHCP server icon right over here under the connectivity. But in DSM 7, you need to head inside the network and then network interface, and here you would see all of your network interfaces and they are configured to DHCP. Now to change this configuration, you need to simply right click on them and then click on edit, or you can simply click on them and click edit right over here. So this is going to open up this configuration box for IPv4, IPv6 and even 802.1x. So you can easily configure your DHCP server from using the manual configuration right over here. Now you can see that my device, the DS1821 Plus, has 4 LAN ports. So that is why I have 4 DHCP servers running on those 4 different ports. Now once a port is connected to a router, the settings can change automatically. By default, now it is showing 192.168.18.125 on LAN 1, but this was not by default when it was not connected to a router. So simply click on edit and use manual configuration and then provide the IP address that you want to configure or give to your DHCP server, then followed up by the subnet mask, followed up by the gateway, followed up by DNS server. Then you can even set this as the default gateway, set MTU value manually, and you can even enable VLAN. Anyways, the same are the settings for IPv6. So we have IPv6 setup, so you can change it to manual and then you can provide the IPv6 address, prefix length, default gateway and the preferred DNS. So I'm just going to change it back to auto. And then we have the 802.1x configuration. For this, we need to first enable it 802.1x authentication, and then we can change the authentication mode to auto, PEAP, TTLS or TLS. Anyways, these were the DHCP server configuration that you get with DSM 7.1. Again, remember that in DSM 6 you had to manually configure DHCP server, but in DSM 7 you do not have to do it manually. Rather, they are set by default, but you can still come to the network interface and manually configure them. In this video, we're going to talk about how to SSH inside your Synology NAS. Now, SSH is nothing but a secure shell, and you can easily access the SSH service of your Synology NAS with the help of the command prompt. But first, you need to enable SSH service. So for that, simply head over to Control Panel and then go inside the terminal and SNMP. Now in here, you would see these two checkboxes. So the first one says enable telnet service and the second one says enable SSH service. So simply click on this checkbox and then choose the port for the SSH service. By default, the port number is 22. So you can go along with the default one or give yourself a different port number. But for now, I'm just going to go with the default one and then click on apply. And then click on OK. Now after the changes have been applied, simply open up the command prompt of your host system and type in SSH followed up by the admin username. Now remember, this should be an admin. So admin123 followed up by @ and followed up by the IP address of your Synology NAS, which is 192.168.18.125, and then hit enter. After that, it is going to ask you about the password of that particular account. So simply type in the password and then hit enter. And just like that, now you're connected to the SSH terminal inside your Synology NAS. And with the last video on how to SSH into the terminal of the Synology NAS device, you have come to the end of this course. So congratulations, you have completed this course for the Synology NAS devices. Now you know everything that you needed to know to become a Synology Pro. Now all you have to do is configure your Synology devices with different configuration to find out the best configuration for your environment and for your use. For that, I wish you good luck.